How many of you have either done or said something out of anger that you later regretted? Yeah, that's what anger does to us. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you guys are here. For those of you who are new, welcome. On this channel, I like to talk a lot about tools for parents, whether that's mindset, perspective, communication strategies, connection, a lot on grief and loss, trauma, and other SEL tools that are applicable. And for those of you who are not subscribed, make sure you do so. I post videos every Friday, so to stay in touch with that, make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell to be notified when I post. I also just wanted to quickly announce that spots for my one-to-one are opening up. So if you'd like to schedule that free consult, I'm going to leave the link down below. And I'm also going to leave a link to my website so that if you guys want to know more information about that or what other coaching that I offer group coaching and single session coaching. So if you want to know more details about that, check out my website. All of those details are going to be there for you. Who I work with, what we do, and the kind of things that we address when we work together. So as you guys have probably saw by the title, in today's video I want to talk about anger, how to let go of anger, why anger is important, and really how we can use anger to our advantage. So for many of us, there are two types of anger. So there are people who like to erupt with anger, and there are people who like to hide their anger and stuff it down deep inside. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an anger stuffer, or at least I used to be in the past. Probably for the majority of my life, I was an anger stuffer, and it kind of blew up in my face, so to speak, when you're suppressing all that emotion. Eventually it has to come out somewhere, and it's not pretty. So for my experience, I lived a life that was hiding my emotions because that's what I was taught when I was younger. My parents were never keen to express their emotion unless it was anger, like my mother. My mother was an erupter and my father was a stuffer. So balance, I guess, but neither of those were healthy. So Carla Mclaren is a mindfulness coach and researcher of emotions. She wrote a book and several books, but the book that I'm going to be referencing is called The Language of Emotions. And in the book, she talks a lot about how we either repress or overexpress our emotions. Specifically, anger is how we get to that point. So we either erupt, which is overexpressed. So when this compression or overexpression happens, and it will because we're all human, those mismanaged emotions will oftentimes just fester and repeat themselves because we haven't brought that emotion forward. We haven't dealt with that emotion fully. So neither of those things address what's actually happening in your psyche. You're not fully feeling that emotion, you're not acknowledging that emotion exists, and you're just letting it have these effects on your body. So physiologically, both of these responses have effects on our body. Research shows that even this compression of this anger feeling has the same physiological effects on our bodies as overexpression or erupting. So what happens physically in the body, so if you can picture the brain as this sort of fist, this is the model adapted by Dr. Dan Siegel. So this is the brainstem. And if we clench our thumb beneath our fingers, this represents the amygdala. And if we put these fingers over that, this represents our prefrontal cortex. So that's the rational thinking of the brain. But what happens when this threat response is occurred, and when we perceive this threat response, what happens is the prefrontal cortex goes like that, we erupt, but it goes offline. So the prefrontal cortex, which is our rational side, our rational thinking, we are detached from it. We have only control of the amygdala. So the reactive amygdala is now in control of our brain. So how do we get the prefrontal cortex back online and back in control, which is the rational side? But if we are reacting with our amygdala, we're going to do all sorts of things that we wouldn't normally do if our prefrontal cortex was online. So yes, we react by yelling, screaming, hitting, cursing, you name it. Any kind of response that you think that you would typically use in this rage of anger is when the amygdala is in charge. So how do we get that prefrontal cortex back on track? Mindfulness. So if you guys have watched this channel and have been keeping up with the videos, you know that mindfulness is always something that I'm trying to incorporate. Mindset in general, mindset, which we talked about in 2 weeks back, about how we are in control of our emotions, again using Dr. Dan Siegel's model, which is the wheel of awareness. So how do we use mindfulness to get that back on track? And how do we let go of this anger? How do we actually use this anger to our advantage? So it's about becoming aware and perceiving things as they are. What we need to do is acknowledge that we're angry. We need to accept that we're angry. We need to give this emotion a name and say it out loud. Even if it makes you look like you're crazy, that's okay. We have to acknowledge that this anger exists because it again creates awareness. We are now aware that we are angry, that we feel angry, and that we know what we do when we are angry. And as parents, it's even harder when you're angry and you just kind of want to react, especially if it's something that is over intensifying a situation when you're already feeling stressed or anxious, especially during now. Like, this is a stressful time for anybody, not just parents, but on top of homeschooling and trying to figure out what your daily tasks should look like. And maybe you're also trying to work on this side, and it's chaotic. And when something happens and makes you angry, it's hard to control that anger. So part of that, yes, is creating an awareness for yourself. Okay, acknowledging that I am angry, but also giving yourself compassion and letting yourself know that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have this feeling, but it's not okay to relinquish this anger onto somebody else or onto yourself for that matter. What we have to do is take a step back, look at the situation fully, understand it, and acknowledge how it's giving us this reaction. We need to understand that we are in charge of our emotions. We are in charge of being angry. No one else can make us angry. No thing can make us angry. The only physical being that can make us angry is ourselves. So yes, we do have control over it. So after awareness, we also need to take into consideration that maybe we need to take a step back and take a break and walk away. It's okay to openly say, I need a break. I need to get out of here. I'm feeling really angry right now. And I don't want to do something or say something to you that's going to make you upset, or that's something that I'm going to regret later. So before we even take that into consideration, we have to physically be conscious when we are angry. And most of the time, for myself even, when I am about to get angry or when I become angry, I don't realize it till after the fact, and then I have to apologize. So it takes a lot of work to be able to, right in the moment, say, okay, before I do this, I'm going to step back. So the first couple of times that you do this, you'll notice that it won't come so easily as you might think, but it does take practice, and it takes being consistent about it. But again, we're all human and we're going to make mistakes. This is going to happen. But what you have to do is be humble about it and learn to apologize when necessary. The more I incorporate this as a practice and the more I start incorporating it into my life, the faster I am at being able to recognize that I do need to apologize and own up to my actions. Because talk to me about a year ago, I was the person who's like, I don't need to apologize. I'm always right. I do everything right. And that's never the case. And usually when you're in that cloud of thinking, you can't even see somebody else's perspective until one day something really painful happens. And it happened to me. And you realize how much you hurt somebody, and then it's too late. So you kind of have to do a 360 and, realize that, wow, my actions do have effects on others. They affect my relationships. They affect the people who I'm around. And then those people don't want to be around me anymore. They think ill of me. And I was always the people pleaser. So for me, that was a lot. So learning to recognize that my actions hurt people. And especially when I'm angry, after years of stuffing that anger, and when it eventually did explode, it hurt people around me. And I realized how much anger can truly control a person and can truly ruin your life. So incorporating mindfulness as a practice, using those techniques of awareness, using self-compassion, taking that break, being able to just breathe deeply and be more conscious of how you breathe. I talk about meditation also as a practice on this channel, and I think meditation in general really brings more consciousness and awareness to your being. So it makes that shift easier. So if that's something you'd like to give a try, I definitely urge to try that out as well, because it is something that allows us to be more mindful when these feelings of anger and even resentment or jealousy or just any kind of feeling that you feel, you have to bring forward and bring awareness to that feeling so that you can address it and use self-regulation techniques to actually feel into it and learn how to do this for yourself and help your kids do the same, because kids are always looking at what we do. So if we practice self-regulating strategies to deal with these kinds of emotions, you'll notice that your kids are also going to practice this kind of being into themselves. So I hope this was helpful for those who maybe are having trouble dealing with this anger, especially right now. It's just such a tough time. So incorporating these strategies, and not just putting them for anger, but any feeling in general, these will be strategies that you can use to manipulate those feelings and really feel deeply into them. So I hope these strategies were helpful, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.